Okay, this will be some warm-up material. It's jury charge, and it will be at 100 words per minute for the record. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today I am going to address you and talk to you about the law that you must apply during the course of your deliberations. As has been said before, and I will say it to you one more time to make it legal and official, when it comes to what the facts are in this case and what happened at the Bluebell Inn on the evening of November 8, 2011, if anything did happen out there, this is for you to decide. You decide what happened, who did what, who was there, and what are the facts that you want to believe. You are the judges of the facts in this case. Your judgment is important in deciding what the facts are that are to be believed. You are the sole and exclusive judges of the facts. Ask yourself what took place at the Bluebell Inn. Ask yourself questions about the case, just as the lawyers have asked each of the witnesses questions about the case. What we lawyers say is not what happened. It is not what each individual witness said happened. It is what you decide happened based upon the evidence in reaching your conclusions. The lawyers, in their summations, talked at length about the testimony. Now, during the course of my jury charge, I will talk about the testimony as given by the witnesses. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in deciding your decision as to what happened at the Bluebell Inn, you have to rely on your own recollection of what the testimony was that was given. Your recollection of that testimony is the most important part of this trial. I will assure you at this time, if I state some small portion of testimony and it differs from what you recall, you must rely on your own recollections. I assure you that none of us here in the courtroom, the attorneys or anyone else, are deliberately trying to mislead you or attempt to mislead you by misstating what the testimony was. We may by accident misstate it, but it is not a deliberate act on your parts. You must rely on your own recollection, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, of what the testimony was. One of your main and important functions is to decide who you believe. You must decide what you believe. You must decide which witnesses you believe, and then in arriving at that decision as far as which witness to believe and what part of their testimony to believe, you should use your common sense and sound judgment that you use in your daily lives to make your decision. In life, we are all called upon to make decisions. We must decide whether or not to believe a story that someone told us. You must make that decision on a daily basis. Well, use your same common sense here, your same judgment that you use in your everyday life to determine which witnesses you believe and what portion of their testimony you are going to believe. You may believe all of their testimony, none of it, or some of it. During the course of the trial, you had the opportunity to see and hear the witnesses while they were on the stand. You watched them testify. The credibility of a witness has to be determined by you. You must evaluate the witness's demeanor while testifying, their mannerisms while testifying, and how they responded to the questions asked of them. Did you notice that the witness hesitated on certain questions? Did the witness try to evade answering a question? Was the witness reluctant at any time to offer an answer? Were the answers direct and to the point? You may also consider along these lines the credibility of each of the witnesses. You must evaluate whether or not a witness was interested in the outcome of this trial. Did they have a personal interest or a personal gain in the outcome of the trial? If they did, this might cause a witness to testify in less than an accurate manner. If you find that any witness did have an interest in the outcome of the trial, that witness is not necessarily entitled to less credit than the other witness who has no interest in the outcome of the trial. And you may find that anyone who did stand to lose or gain by the way they testified in this trial, you may consider that in assigning weight to individual testimony. Okay, this will be some literary material. Maybe about 110. Might go up to 120 a little bit, but mostly 110. For the record, I ran for president with a pretty simple vision. I wanted to restore the American dream and bring the American people together. My job as president is to do everything I can to see that our people and our businesses have the tools they need to meet the demands of the present age and seize the opportunities. We know that small business is the engine that will drive us into the 21st century. We know that big corporations get a lot of attention because they employ most of the people, create more than half of what we produce and sell, and create most of the new jobs, and we need to respond to that. Small business is the American dream. We look around this room and we see, and you can hear stories of innovation and daring. When I came here 2.5 years ago, the first thing we had to do was to try to generate a broad-based economic recovery because we were in a period of the slowest job growth since the Great Depression, and we were having serious problems. We had quadrupled our country's debt and tripled the annual deficit in only 12 years, while reducing our investment in the future in many important areas. We knew we had to get our house in fiscal order, bring that deficit down, and at the same time continue to invest in the skills of our people and the technologies of the future. Now this hard work is paying off. There is a lot of work still to do, but the facts speak for themselves. The economy is up, inflation is low, trade is expanding, interest rates and unemployment are down. The strategy is working. Over 6.5 million new jobs have come into this economy in the last 2 years, almost all of them in the private sector. There's a far higher percentage of new jobs in the private sector as opposed to government than in the previous decade. We have more than 80 new trade agreements covering everything from cellular telephones to rice from my home state and everything you can imagine in between. The deficit is being cut already by $1 trillion over 7 years, and we are going to cut it more. The deficit is now going down 3 years in a row under the budgets already passed for the first time since Mr. Truman was the President of the United States, and under the budgets already passed, thanks to the reinventing government effort, we are going to reduce the size of the federal government by 270,000. It will make it the smallest it's been since President Kennedy was the President of the United States.